Hi, my name is Nolan Hack. I am a black revolutionary from Los Angeles, California.
Illari, Chaska, interested in the liberation of Semanawak.
I'm Tanja Burkhard, a black German woman in Pittsburgh.
Okay, so topic this week, the state of the movement, state of activism. Article today is about Rose McGowan, you know, shaking her fist in the air for women's rights. I mean, white women's rights. And it seems like, and this is just the way I kind of seen it, but you guys, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this whole situation. But it seems like liberalism has kind of taken center stage in the world of activism since the kind of the re-energizing of the civil rights movement after Mike Brown and Trayvon lost their lives. And yet, at the same time, we have these new alt-white, pro-white activists, and this all kind of muddies up what needs to be done. This distracts us from our march to freedom, our march to liberation. Even within causes that affect people of all races, you have white liberals knocking people of color out of the way and grabbing the microphone for themselves. Look at Tanja Burkhard. She invents the Me Too hashtag, yet there have been multiple articles from reputable or popular publishers that have said, no, Alyssa Milano came up with that. And that's it's a shame, and it's disheartening, and it's disrespectful. So, as we sit on February the 1st, 2018, what are you guys' thoughts of how this movement that we fight in every day, how does it look to you?
Well, I can only speak on like the more indigenous stuff, and I haven't been active that long. But from what I've seen right now, some situations have been pretty disheartening. Like kind of sad, to be honest with you, because you're like you mentioned the whole liberalism, or and that usually entails inclusion of Europeans and things they shouldn't even be meddling in. And it's been really like upsetting and sad to see how they're easily integrated into indigenous movements and how much damage they do. It's almost like they still have a control over our minds, even when we're trying to supposedly seek liberation. So I seen some stuff that I find very kind of like I see people saying really strong sentiments, right? Their word is strong, and it's like really and then like then you kind of have them flip around and cuddle white people and pardon them more than their indigenous brothers. They seem to be more flexible and like white people's errors, and it's really at first it's like almost you go through emotions of like being angry about it, then being sad about it, then being disgusted by it. It's just, and I just seen I'm speaking in generally, right? Certain things I see, and it's just gross. Like I don't know what to make of it, but I get very hopeful when, you speak to someone that is a so-called Hispanic or Latino, and you start giving them information, and they're like, oh yeah, I knew something was wrong, or they see what you're saying without, just as kind of like seeing the information without being so negative, right? Or people very curious and asking questions about liberation. Like then I get back into the sense of like, okay, we are doing the right thing, but again, it's really like gross when Europeans get so into something and they end up destroying it.
Yeah. I reminds me of a quote from a brother. It's the second one of these roundtables we did, and it was in New York, and he said, white people destroy everything. White people destroy everything, and then they come back for more. And like you just said, even when they're trying to help, or pretending to help, because some of them are trying to help, and then there's others who are pretending to help. Tanja, what's your first thoughts on this subject?
So I think there were a lot of movements mentioned, and I'm not necessarily involved in all or fully aware of what's going on, but in my context, what I would love to see would be more of this. Like, there's like a Black immigrant mobilization happening, and I love it because I think that there's a lot of conversations to be had about being Black and immigrant and Muslim and woman or whatever other intersecting identities there are. But I don't see a lot of conversation then what it means to be a Black immigrant in a settler state, or to become a settler, or to talk with indigenous people about what's going on and to build coalitions. I think a lot of the movements are siloed off based on race, based on gender, kind of like the Me Too movement too. It's just turned into kind of a white women's finger point. I mean, I think they should, expose and do these things, but I need there to be spaces for women of color, Black women, trans women, everyone to be cooperating against white supremacy, which is kind of my primary concern. So, yeah, let white women do that. I just feel, I personally wish there would be more conversation about building coalitions between people of color who actually really do want liberation and not just to be the ones in power.
I feel that.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me than, that if we were to do things where you want to invest in, coalitions or allyship, then it would make more sense to join with a person who is also oppressed rather than somebody that is benefiting from the destruction of people of color. It doesn't make any sense to invest so much in like white people, really. Then, maybe somebody that would understand you more would be probably a person of African descent that lives in your same neighborhood, and you live through the same conditions, and you understand what it is to be discriminated. It makes way more sense, that's why I don't understand this whole, like, I don't even understand where the word white ally even came from. Like, that's just like, I'm still trying to go, like, who invented that,
White people.
Probably. Sure.
Somewhere in a COINTEL basement.
You need a word that's going to make us feel so good.
Like, it has to be coming from.
Not the basement.
I have an idea, sir. How about white ally? We invent white allies to make them think that we're going to help.
And they're going to infiltrate and then slowly take over and then feel really insulted if they don't get to run things.
Oh, geez.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Oh, my gosh. That's it. I have so many thoughts in my head about the ally cookies, and there is a wonderful woman, happens to be white, on Twitter. She's an activist, especially for disabled people, and she's Isa Jenny, 2 N's and an IE on Twitter, and she came up with the phrase ally cookies because white people always want the credit when they are allegedly helping people of color. And I'm trying to think of one of my favorite moments. One of my favorite ones was the former Baltimore cop, Michael Wood. I don't know if anybody knows him, remembers him, but he left the force and became a big activist, going after the cops, calling out the cops. So a lot of us on our side of the table were like, oh wow, we got a former cop. This is huge. He can rat them out and help us out and keep us safe. Well, that's not exactly what happened. And a friend of mine said to me, I don't really like him. I'm like, why not? He seems like a good dude. He's calling out the cops. And then she's like, well, how many names has he dropped? How many files has he leaked? And I'm like, damn, she's right. So I asked him some question about something one day, and he got so upset. And he said, look, some of my commanding officers were black, so shut the hell up, okay? And I was laughing, honestly, because I was like, I actually wanted his opinion on something because I've never been a police officer, and I wanted to see his side of things. But he outed himself, and he also had similar conversations with other people of color on Twitter within that week. So at the end of that week, he shut his Twitter off. So that was fun, and I took screenshots. Thanks. You always got to take screenshots. You got to have the receipts. Have to in this modern day and age. But that's really common. If they don't get their credit, they get very upset, they get belligerent, and they out themselves. They show who they really are. They aren't for us. They're for them. They're for making their profile big.
Yeah.
I think the other side, with people of color kind of believing in the American dream, believing that, that phrase, but we still have work to do, but we've come so far, all that stuff. And I saw a video by The Roots, which is a black publication online, and it said 5 reasons to boycott the NFL and the Super Bowl. And none of those reasons were Washington's football team or the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm really? These teams have been around for decades and decades and decades. I mean, Washington's been around since the 20s. And that was not a good enough reason to... No? Okay. So, one of y'all said that so often, if you're of a marginalized group, so if you're black, indigenous, Japanese, whatever, you are more prone to just, okay, I'm black, so I'm just going to, it's all black problems 24/7. And I'm not saying this, that's a bad thing on the surface, but when those questions come up about, Washington's football team or yellowface, talking about Asian people, we still shouldn't be okay with that. We should put our hand up going, that's wrong. That person should stop doing it instead of, playing respectability politics.
Absolutely. I think that's a difficult thing. I think that a lot of folks have that tunnel vision that only concerns them. But that's also the reason why a lot of the Ankh right is so focused on black male issues and black male empowerment and cannot fathom any kind of issues that even relate to black women, and that's within their own race and family and immediate environment. So I think it's so easy to get that tunnel vision if you are for a cause, but it doesn't really allow you to fight for liberation, because at the end of the day, if we're not all fighting for it, then it's not going to happen for any of us. So, yeah, what you said.
This is reminding me, wasn't the Me Too movement hijacked from a African lady?
Yes, Tanja Burkhard. She invented the hashtag like 10 years ago, and it seems like every publication is saying that Alyssa Milano came up with it, but more than a few have said that Milano came up with it, and it's her movement, even though Milano herself has a NFL clothing line that includes Washington Redskins apparel with the word and the ugly racist mascot. So she herself showing that she's obviously not here for all women, yet she's the one getting the credit. That goes back to the ally cookies. So
I didn't know that they said she invented it.
Yeah, she's getting so much credit for it. It reminds me a little bit, and I won't label her toxic like I do with Milano, but Chanel Woodley with Standing Rock. Although Chanel Woodley was doing serious work, she put her white body on the line for Native people. She put her money where her mouth was. She admitted she's still learning. Yeah. But all that being said, she was the one put on center stage so often. She was the one people were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Red Fawn is going to prison, for goodness sake. She's been in legal trouble for going all the way back to Standing Rock. Roderick Joe is going to jail. Another native activist. You know, Tara Hauschka got put in a dog kennel, for goodness sake. You know, yet Chanel Woodley, you know, Susan Sarandon, Mark Ruffalo, Josh Fox, these are the people we're going to talk about, not the actual native people that are trying to protect native land and, you know, the water there. So that there's the white savior complex again, which we discussed on a past roundtable, but it's annoying. It's very annoying. I mean, me personally, I don't, from a credit standpoint, I don't care about personal credit, but if we're talking about as a group, or I see friends of mine or people I respect, and they're not getting their due, but some, you know, white celebrity or white activist is the one getting the credit, especially for someone like Milano, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's like it was mentioned, tunnel vision, because like now if you think of Me Too, the whole idea almost gives you tunnel vision to focus on like what did they do to these white ladies in Hollywood. Like you almost like it's almost like moved away from focusing or looking at it in a broader sense that yes, indigenous women have a high rate of being, you know, sexually assaulted, and so do African women. And like that, it seems like that narrative almost like got blurry, right? Mm-hmm. And we went all and we made it into like a whole Hollywood thing. Just like what, you know?
Yeah. Exactly, and those are, I mean, not to diminish the experience, but women who often have a lot of access and a lot of privilege within their spaces, and so I think there should be a space for them, of course, to talk about their experiences with sexual assault in a public sphere, because then people will listen. But on the other hand, I think people who are undocumented or people who are just living regular lives, working in regular places, experiencing these things every day, are completely eclipsed now. And I don't see much care given at those levels. And meanwhile, the protections for male athletes who are being accused of sexual misconduct on college campuses, there are being more and more protections built in at this point for them. To make sure that less things can happen to them and career-wise. So I think there's this backlash against regular people in some way. whereas these stories are being explored a lot. And yeah, some of them are horrible, obviously, but it's just one industry of so many. So, you know.
Yeah, and then I would have to say, like how you said, it's not to diminish somebody's stories or say that it doesn't matter or something like that. It's just that that's also horrible, but it's also scary, like in the sense, because I read a Vice article, and I pulled it up right now, and I remember seeing this, and it says Native American women are being sold into the sex trade on ships along Lake Superior, which is like really scary. Like it's almost like stuff like when I read stuff like this, it's like 1492 is still here, like it hasn't left, and that's why I mentioned this, like that narrative, almost like I think we should be focusing on things like this. It's like really extreme, you know. And it says Native women and children and even babies are being trafficked into the sex trade on freights across Canada U.S. border on Lake Superior between Thunder Bay, Ontario, and Duluth, Minnesota. And it's it's nightmarish to even read that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm mentioning this, because the whole tunnel vision, we almost forget of things of this extreme, that people that are committing these kind of crimes against Indigenous women, you know, should be prosecuted. We should find them all as fast as we can. Like, this is something that shouldn't even be happening. It's too extreme.
And it's like a global network of trafficking, and you can be in one country and be trafficked to another and never be heard of again as a child.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that it's just, I can't even wrap my mind around it. And having lived in one of the main hubs in North America, it's such a, it's everywhere, and you don't know anything about it unless you're doing the research yourself. And I don't see why everyone isn't talking about these things, especially when Native women are so vulnerable and children are even, I mean, it's just incredible. And who and these children, like, that's another thing. Sorry, I was just reading an article about sex trafficking, and it was written by a white man who went to India and then realized the worst case he ever saw was in Chicago, but whatever. But it's about, you know, the people that traffic are sometimes being exposed or caught, but the people who buy children and young girls and women, nothing happens to them usually. So it's like a whole system of, okay, so we're taking this guy out, the next person steps up, because we'll always have someone purchasing these young girls and boys.
It's terrifying, and then especially our two people, you have around 60,000 black women and girls missing in the United States. You have thousands of Native women and girls missing in the United States and Canada, and just snapped up in the middle of the night. And yet every day on the news, you know, Robert Mueller and Donald Trump. Look, we know your politics are corrupt. Okay, doesn't matter who's in there. This one is particularly peachy. He's a peach. We know Trump. Okay, but you could talk about other stuff as well, and especially considering what is happening to people of color, especially our two people. And it seems through history, it seems like there's always a distraction to take away from what they continue to do to us. You know, like Nixon and Watergate. Yet Nixon, what about Nixon's drug war that was going on at the same time? You know, arresting young men of color every 5 seconds, throwing them in jail. But no, it was Watergate, all Watergate. People can't multitask in the news media. And I saw some numbers recently. MSNBC, through the entirety of the Yemeni genocide by Saudi Arabia and the United States, the network MSNBC has talked about it for like 1%, or it was some astronomical number where they barely talked about it in all that time. I can't remember the exact number, but you have millions of people without food, without water. People are dying. Yet they're people of color, so who cares? We're not going to talk about that. And this resistance movement is a perfect example of this, because all that is, it's to protect the Republic, to protect the Democratic Party, to protect white people's comfort within this Republic. It has nothing to do with black lives or Native lives or lives of color. Because if it did, you wouldn't have people defending the FBI just because, Comey was fired by Trump, or Mueller, former FBI director himself. And it's nails on the chalkboard annoying for me. I remember. I think I've told the story 100 times, but I'll keep telling it because it's so telling. But it was, I would say, December of 2016, excuse me, and I had been out in D.C. Trying to help Leonard Peltier get out of prison. So I happened to be at the White House every day. So there's always protests at the White House. And it was about 6 o'clock at night. It was dark, and we see like about 500 people come through the park and then get to the front of the White House. And the dude across from me is named Filippo Smiacubello. He's been there for 3 decades. He's helped thousands of nuclear weapons be disarmed or not be made. He has signs for Leonard Peltier, so did I. And none of them stopped to either of us. And this was a mostly white crowd, and they were there anti-Trump. So they go to the front of the White House, and they're doing chants and all this stuff. And then at the end of the protest, they start going, "Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter." I'm like, wow, really? Really? But then I had an epiphany. It was like, so Black lives didn't matter to you guys until November 8th, 2016, when that election happened. That's very interesting. And then they all walked back, about 80% of them walked back the same way they came in, and they ignored both of us. So all the stuff they were talking about, chanting like Black Lives Matter, well, here we are, here's 2 black men on the issues right here. And no. Go back home, watch the Kardashians, forget all about it.
The concept matters, not the actual people.
Exactly.
You need to write a book.
Well, I am currently. Maybe I need to start up on another one before I finish this one.
Yeah, just like a storytelling book of your experiences. Snatch that off the market.
I think also just from that vein of what you're talking about, just with storytelling and our experiences, I think so many of us, even those of us who aren't in the movement, the stories that we have to tell about racism and race, they're extraordinary. Mm-hmm. Because you have the majority of anybody, black, white, green, yellow, in this country believing that it's either not that bad or we're over racism. Mm-hmm. So from our view, the ones of us who are aware of what's going on, we have to have the most ridiculous conversations with the most ridiculous people on a regular basis, just to defend our own humanity. And sometimes those particular conversations take detours into who knows what, especially if you are in the movement. It's astounding. What this society is, and what we have to deal with, even when these white allies say they're helping us. Don't worry, we got your back. Don't worry. Yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, I agree. Sure. But stop talking about it. It's getting annoying.
Sure, you're human, whatever. If you say so. I mean, if you insist.
I'll take your word for it.
I have black friends. My favorite was, I have a black boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a whole other dimension that I've heard a lot. Hey, that's good for you. My black boyfriend doesn't think I'm racist. Oh, okay.
Jeez, yeah. That's they always have that in the holster. Black friend, part native. I'm married to one of you. I have a child. My favorite one of that is this guy commented on my Facebook once. This is recent, in the last 2 months. He says, "Look, look. I'm not a racist, but you are a nigger." Okay.
What?
And I'm just sitting back there going, "Wait a minute." And I was laughing like, yo. I was like, wait, hold on.
Thank you. What the hell?
I'm trying to re-say the words in my own head. I am not a racist. I'm a white man. I'm not a racist, but you are a nigger. That doesn't hold up in court. Like that ain't working. And he then goes on to say that he is married to a black woman and has a black child. And I hope to God to this day that he was lying about the black child. It was hard enough for me as a biracial black person living in a white neighborhood trying to figure everything out. I can't imagine a black child with a racist white father like that. So I hope he was lying about that. But yeah, the things that we, the situations we end up in, astounding.
And if that's where we enter the conversation, then every time there's so much work you have to do to even get the same basic understandings, like racism exists. You do not get to call me the N-word. And how about what you're doing is racist? Interest convergence is a thing, and just because it suits your cause right now doesn't mean that you're actually for the cause. And all of that breath that you're wasting is to educate the other party, and you're getting exhausted and sick and tired. And they're like, oh, I've done a lot of reflecting, and I kind of came to realize maybe racism does exist.
Maybe.
I've just been reflecting, and it just was, all by myself. It was just a revelation.
And most of them don't even get to that point.
Yeah,
most of them fight it. Yeah, like you're saying, most of them fight it. Usually the best you can hope for is, well, let's agree to disagree. That's usually the best you can hope for.
Have you ever noticed that you can never find the racist too? It's like they don't exist.
Oh, there aren't any.
I'm not racist.
Trump isn't racist. The Proud Boys aren't racist. The Minutemen aren't racist. I don't know who else isn't racist.
The Klan isn't racist.
The Klan isn't racist. Yeah, it's interested in saving the race, but it's not racist. And then you got, man, because I had people tell me Donald Trump's not racist, and I'm like sitting here going like, is he racist yet? Is he now? No, he's just saying it to say it. Like, oh, okay. But then I start saying things about indigenous liberation. You know what? You're a racist.
Exactly.
I'm like,
you're
oh, okay, I'm a racist.
Exactly. Hey, we exist, and we would like to have our land back. Oh, that's just so racist. People just don't know what they're talking about.
Well, it's. I mean, it's ignorance. It's so much ignorance. It's either just pure ignorance or it's willful ignorance because of all the nonsense that you're taught as a child, and then that gets fostered as you get older. But I wonder about that comeback that white people have. You're racist. Like, when did that start? Did that start during slavery? Did that start after you put in Jim Crow? Did that start with Malcolm X? Like, because it makes absolutely no sense. Racism doesn't make any sense as a construct, but you're racist for talking about racism and calling it out. It's like the men's rights thing. You're being a reverse sexist here. This is ridiculous. You're demeaning your whole feminist movement by being a reverse sexist. What?
Yeah, meninist.
Yeah, you're a heterophobe.
Yes. At this point, yes.
Well, they keep doing things like this. I mean, what does the news call white supremacists now? White nationalists. I'm like sitting here going like, why are you saying their terms? Like, why are you following up on their nonsense? It's like, you could really get one of these guys, these Europeans, and ask them, you're a white supremacist. No, I'm a white nationalist. Oh, okay, my bad. Like, I'm sorry, that's somehow different. Well, I'm not a white nationalist. I'm just in the alt-right. I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. Spencer, the creator of alt-right, not racist at all. Like, gotcha. It's a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of flipping of words. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a saying, it's an indigenous saying, like forked tongue, they speak nice words. This is not new.
And I really do wish that racist white people would just be honest about the racism. I don't care if you're from the left, if you're from the right, or you're centers, or whatever the hell you want to call yourself. Like you said, Illari, from all these labels that they use. But I just wish they would stop wasting both of our time and just admit that they're racist. Say, look, okay, yeah, white people are better than black people. Oh, all right, that's what you think. Okay. Not, well, if you just pick yourself up by the bootstraps, maybe you can get out of this. Save all that nonsense. Well, you had slaves too, so you need to calm down. Just say what you mean. Stop hiding. Stop beating around the bush. Let's have an honest conversation. Say what you feel. Say what you mean.
But then they would realize that the things that they have are not because they earned them.
Oh, of course not. Oh, God gave them God gave white people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there is a sacred doctrine, like somewhere buried in a town in Philadelphia, that has the words of George Washington and John Adams, and God delivered the angel and gave this great country to the white man, and blah blah blah. I'm sure that probably exists somewhere. Probably.
I wonder what part of Christianity tells you to murder, accumulate wealth, and rape and pillage. But
that's the dude with the funny hat. That's the Pope. The doctrine of discovery.
Just a little rape apologist. All good.
Yeah, oh man, the Catholic Church, they make Christians look tame, and my Christians, oh boy. The Catholic Church?
They're both crazy.
Oh, they are. I'm just saying.
They all are, but the Catholics, they have a great history of. Also, their whole colonial project and a whole other dimension to it.
It's they colonized the white people in general. They colonized most of the world. Most of us have not realized that. I mean, Australia, Africa, the U.S., Turtle Island, India,
other parts of Asia, and completely somehow tricked millions and billions of people into thinking that they are superior. Their language, their ways of being. It's incredible.
That reality is it's incredible, and it's scary at the same time. You know, you have so many black people in this country, and Africa, even believing in a fake person, white Jesus. You know, you have Indians in India, you know, black people here or in Africa trying to live up to Western ideals, white ideals. Even within the movement here, you know, you have a lot of, not a lot of, you have a good number of brothers and sisters in the movement. I'm running for office. I'm going to fix this thing from the inside. Let's go. Like, no. I thought we talked about this. What happened? Who got to you? Yeah, it's the whole thing is it's disheartening. I think, Tanya, you said it earlier, that we need to continue to build within our own communities and with other marginalized groups of color, because you know they aren't going to help us. A brother once told me once, you know, we were organizing an event in LA, and at the end of one day he said, "Yeah, white folks ain't gonna help us. It's like waiting for a train at the bus station, you know." And that phrase
Nice.
stuck with me since then. But it's true. I mean,
it's against their interests.
exactly.
It's against their interests.
The same reason, like you said, you know, black men are worried about black men, not black women or black people in the LGBT community.
Right.
The homophobia, the transphobia within the black community is just disgusting. I've heard black activists say, you know, yeah, they keep that behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody needs to see that. I'm thinking in my head, well then, straight people shouldn't kiss out in public? Like, are you just really? Did you have like a very strict upbringing? You know, what's the problem here? And I really hope that more black, native, Asian, Arab, trans women, trans men, non-binary are able to speak. We give them a voice. More black women, native women, Arab women. Because there's already too many white men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there's still too many, men in general, hogging the microphone. Yeah. And that needs to change. And it's against our own beliefs. That's just not how we used to do things back in the day before white people came over to both of our continents.
Right. Then have the nerve to say the white man invented being gay or whatever, when that's not what white people invented.
Oh, we know what they invented. They
The
invented.
devil, whatever.
Really, that's what you're gonna credit white people with, that?
Of all the things to credit them with.
Right, I guess.
Well, here's one thing. If we could stay on the subject or not. I just, because this is the first day of February and I saw it all over Twitter. If you guys want to discuss this for a bit, Black History Month, and you have also Native Heritage Month in November, which is during Thanksgiving. So you have the shortest month of the year in February for us. And then you have the same month as Thanksgiving for Native people. Anybody got any thoughts on those two things, or just on that? We're given a charitable month to make everything okay.
I mean, I can only say, I mean, yeah, like what you pointed out, the whole Thanksgiving basically being on the same month. Interesting that they could have Indigenous month on that month and not get rid of Thanksgiving, knowing the history, right? It's supposed to be about your heritage, so it's like your history too, but like, can you, like, did you learn that?
Except the part where we eat turkey and feel good about ourselves.
Right. And
Yeah.
Washington play another football game.
Yeah, so it's really, I mean, and then also, like, I mean, I know they do this, but, like, you never really see something, like, truly educational, you know? Because, like, the whole, like, if you don't know your history, you're going to repeat it, or, you don't know your history, you don't know how to defend yourself, you know? In the modern day, you won't know how to analyze your current situation. So yeah, like, I mean, I don't know what to make of that. Like, for me, it's like Indigenous heritage is every day. And every day, as Indigenous people, we should be learning more of our culture, decolonizing every day.
I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
It's same for us. 365 is Black History Month.
Even though I do like Black History Month, and I will say that even though I agree, of course, but coming from Germany where people pretend that black people only exist elsewhere, I like just taking some time to focus on, I mean, not just Black history, but whatever month it is. I mean, educationally, I think you should do it all the time, but I kind of like sometimes having an intentional focus, especially for children, to really reinstill certain things, to really like focus on one topic at hand, one history for a while, and then show how everything's interconnected. Because obviously Black History Month isn't isolated from Native History Month or any other history months. But just for that, I like the activities sometimes, but that's because I'm corny. Not because I think it's some sort of only time of the year where you're supposed to care about things.
That is a positive. I would agree that we could use it, especially I think within our own, if those of us who have children, use it as an excuse to teach more Black history to our kids, because I remember school growing up, and it's like what you said, Illari, about the watered down history. But the Black history I was taught, Martin Luther King loved everybody, love, peace, there was a Black judge named Thurgood Marshall. Frederick Douglass somehow magically learned how to speak and write, and Harriet Tubman was Black Moses. We're going to keep, even within those people, we're going to keep their whole selves away from what the kids are learning. So that is key to. We could use that as a tool. Use the month as a tool to get young people more involved in their own history and teach them the whole, actual whole history,
right?
Not just the watered down. It was so watered down. I'm thinking back. I went to one private school, and my dad, God rest his soul, he was in the movement back in the day. He was a lawyer also. So I don't remember if he came up with the idea or if the teachers who were white came up with the idea. They had a skit where it was about the Birmingham bus boycott, and you had my father as the judge, because he's the lawyer. and then you had somebody as Martin Luther King and somebody as Rosa, but it was the racial connotation was kind of watered down a bit, and it was just like, well, these are green people, and then these are blue people. They need to get along. So, like watered down black, white. Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Blue.
They did that, like, I think every...
Blue? Red people?
Yeah, blue people and green people. I can't remember what the exact split was, but it was not black and white people. They wanted to water it
What?
down.
That way? Oh my God. That's like, wow, that is not reality.
Right.
It's
And then the whole thing, like it's the whole thing, like black, white, right? And it's like, well, the whole, like you said earlier, I don't see color or whatever. And it's not like, well, what we call race, right? It's not just color. Because people of African descent come in light skin too, right? Mm-hmm. Malcolm X was light skinned and all that, and it's kind of like, it's not that. It's just our being is not. It's beyond that, right? It's beyond that color category. Mm-hmm. So it's like, fine, you're blind, you see no color, you're still gonna be what we call racist because I'm not European, right? Because European is a facial structure. I mean, African is a facial structure. It's a phenotype, right? And it's like, it's just ridiculous too. Like the whole simplification of racism, it's color, it's skin,
All right, skin tone is like one small morsel of it all.
Yeah.
They invented race.
Exactly, so you're going to label people as black people, and then when you're reenacting it, you're going to call them green people and blue people because you, what? I guess it's just that simple for you, huh?
Yeah.
You are no longer black. You are now green people from Mars, and we're blue. What?
I thought I was Gumby for 2 months now.
Right. What did I do to the Martians? I don't get it. They need to, and that's what I don't understand. I mean, children can handle a whole lot. We're taught about the Holocaust in Germany from 4th grade on in the most scarring way possible. I still remember the book I read in 4th grade and about a little Jewish boy that died because they didn't let him in the bunker. And I'll never forget that. But honestly, white children should not be able to forget what their ancestors have done either. They should know this at all times of their adulthood and use it to propel them to be better in the next generation, and not to be coddled and feel good about themselves because it's blue people and green people were arguing, and no. Kids need the real.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you mentioned Germany, and there's no Germany doesn't have statues of Hitler, but here in so-called America we have statues of Columbus everywhere. Then you have another thing, like there's the swastika, the Nazi swastika, right? Is banned paraphernalia in Germany, while the cross, the Christian cross, is all over the place here. And it destroyed, Christianity, the cross, right, what that represents, is one of the most destructive forces that has ever destroyed indigenous people. Like, it's the worst of the colonial evils. They, set the foundation for the stealing of the land. But that's everywhere here. That's not, that's not banned. That's not a hate song.
Yeah.
Got a word there.
I can't, I can't blame, look, I'm Christian myself, so I can't blame a black or especially a Native person for saying that. I mean, by the death toll numbers alone, geez, you've got hundreds of million people and counting, black and Native, killed by this faith. And counting, it's still going on, and it is it is amazing about Nazi Germany that, I mean, I didn't grow up in Germany like you, Tanya, but I remember going to one of the bigger museums in Los Angeles on a field trip. We met a man who had the numbers on his arm, survivor. We saw the pictures in the museum of, the stacks of Jewish bodies, children barely fed. You see bones. And, we had the Holocaust Remembrance Day this past weekend, I think it was. Where the hell is Native Genocide Remembrance Day? Where's Slavery Remembrance Day? Where's Jim Crow Remembrance Day? Where's Trail of Tears Remembrance Day? Of course, then both these genocides are still happening, so it's kind of hard to honor the victims and say, well, we need to stop this, make sure it never happens again when you're still doing it. Like you said, Illari, that 1492 is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
So since it's still happening, obviously they're not going to go, well, geez, we're sorry. This is what they want. This is not something they want to stop. It's very. I wonder, it makes me wonder about certain white people, not all white people, but white people in general. Like, how much bloodshed are you okay with? How much pain, how much of a death toll are you okay with? Because it doesn't affect you. If it doesn't affect them, they don't care.
But if they're all part Native and married and or affiliated with black people, then
that's right. How
does it not affect you?
Oh, the utter hypocrisy of racism. It's like Hitler. Hitler's like, oh, look, white is right, Aryan purity, okay, the Jewish people, ugly, all this blah, 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 blah. But we're also going to have a Muslim sect of the SS. What?
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
None of that made sense, but that's why it worked for that brief period of time. You just took over, in a weak moment, and because people weren't the smartest and most educated and kind of desperate, he just succeeded, and none of it had to make sense, just like now. Things that Trump says don't have to make sense, but people are like, oh, it sounds good to me. What? All of this sounded good to you? Like, the fact that he still has all these supporters, it shocks me every day when I read their comments and just say you don't like Trump. Didn't you say you were going to leave the country? And I'm like, people are actually making rational arguments about what he's doing and saying, and you're just blindly supporting stuff, which I think I just think it's amazing. I mean, I don't know what I would have done if I had been alive under Hitler, but I'm like, really? It's so easy to just sway a whole mass of people like this? And
I guess it's easier to sway people with fear and hate than understanding and togetherness. Maybe the phrase we're taught as kids, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Well, maybe not.
You're right. You're actually absolutely right, because the fear of the other is what led to Iraq wars and all these other horrific things, just because people feared something happening to them. That's the reason why North Korea is on the radar right now. I'm like, why is it even like, why can't they just be a little dictatorship elsewhere? Why do we have to like poke them, or they have to poke them and now get more nuclear weapons?
To use 2 nuclear weapons on an American nation instead of 2 nuclear weapons are used on an Asian nation, and killed Koreans in the process because they were a few of them were in the country at the time.
It's 2018 and we're really talking about nuking each other. And we're,
Yeah, I mean, I remember the election. Oh, none of us over. Forget that election. And I remember hearing Trump going, "Yeah, we need all the nukes. Give me all the nukes. Nukes. We need nuke power." And I remember hearing Hillary in an interview herself going, "Look, I if Iran tries anything, I would like to annihilate Iran. There's 77 million people in Iran, so he's going to nuke them."
She said that.
Yeah, annihilate. What's the word? And this is Western white society, fake, or white Christian doctrine, whatever you want to call it. These are these ideals. We're going to protect ourselves through whatever means, whether they make sense or not, as long as we are on top. It doesn't matter where everybody else is, as long as we are still on top. That's what matters.
Well, that's what's fueling support for Trump. I mean, like, this guy's incompetent, literally, and there's still support for him?
America.
Well, yeah, because he's all fueling all that nonsense that they feel, because it's like, we're not number one. We're not number one. What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to me if I'm not ruling over every person of color? What's gonna happen to me? That's all it's fueling that. I mean, none of them make sense.
He's got ties and hats. The Make America Great Again hats made in China, I believe. I know his ties are made in China, and it reminds me when Hitler was saying, "Yes, only Germans for Germany. That's it. To only work, only trade. No more trade. No, it's all us." He's getting help from the UK. Like, what in the hell? What you just said. Like, what happened? Yeah, no.
It doesn't work that way. And I mean, all those communist countries that were doing the same thing had to realize that as well. Like, you can't be a silo, especially, I mean, capitalism or not. It just doesn't work that way.
Even North Korea themselves, as oppressive as they are, they get, granted all the imports go to the top, but they get imports from other countries. They get the Mercedes-Benz, they get their champagne.
Not just luxury goods, food. You have to have a viable economy in order to have people eat and survive, even if it's just a domestic economy. If you don't have that and there's no trade, then how are you going to get anything unless you can home grow it, which is not the most hospitable place. And neither are the other places that people have toxified and destroyed completely. So
it's you see that hypocrisy, and like we were talking about earlier. In an ideal world, well, sure, let's speak rationally, let's speak logically, and let's go from there. We can never do that in this society. That is thrown out the window. You have someone like Ben Franklin looking at Native societies. Wow. Well, this is different. This actually works. Let's destroy it.
This is amazing. You're just self-sufficient. People are getting along, living life, healthy. Let me get rid of that quick.
White Jesus would not be okay with that at all. I would like to see the White Jesus Bible. Like, well, I think it's available in bookstores everywhere. It's the New International Version, it's King James Version. So, yeah, Filippo's the dude I was talking about before. He speaks, I think it's like 6 languages. He can speak, repeat the Bible from memory in different languages, including his own Ethiopian. He's half Ethiopian, half indigenous Brazilian. And he was teaching me that there are a bunch of references to Africa in the original text of the Bible that they took out.
Mhm.
So, we can't have, take that out. Take that out. He was white, blonde hair, great surfer. Surfer bod. Give me a break.
Looks like he's on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's good though, because if the zombie apocalypse ever happens, well, then we'll get Jesus back to save us, so it'll be all good.
Oh boy.
That's probably we should end it for the night. Since we're talking about the zombie apocalypse.
We have arrived at the zombie apocalypse and its benefits.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we should call our double genocide, the white takeover, the zombie apocalypse, because they're so pale. I mean,
the White Walkers.
Yes,
Different.
The White Walkers. I like that. The story, because if you watch, if anybody's ever seen Star Wars, those stormtroopers look like Klansmen. Let's be real. White Walkers. That stormtroopers, White Walkers. I like that. White Walkers. Jeb Bush, you're a White Walker. Donald Trump, White Walker. Hillary, White Walker. Ted Cruz,
thank you, George
you want to be a White
Martin,
Walker.
for giving us language we needed. Oh my, this was a fun one again.
Yeah. This took a nice little tangent at the end. That was nice. White Walkers. That's the word of this episode. I should label it White Walkers.
The White Walkers.
People are like, wait.
Activists and White Walkers.
New punk band, the White Walkers.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, enjoyable as always.